morning, everyone. If you could please take your seats. Wow, this really works. Come on. Plenty of seats, so don't be shy. So welcome, everybody. First, I want to thank Laura Lopez-Fine from ZoomX, who gave us our musical introduction. Laura is going to be singing for us a little bit later, and it's such a joy to have her here. I have heard her sing before. She's so accomplished. She's been with ZoomX for 3 years. She's going to be there hopefully for another 3 years. So dedicated to her craft, and what a great history she has already. Having sung with Roger Waters from Pink Floyd at the Garden, and many other accomplishments. So pleased to have her here. And ZoomX is a special relationship for us. It's one of our community partners. We support their events. We really have contributed to their livelihood, and they to ours. So great to have them here, and Madeline Sosinski is here representing ZoomX. They're one of our foundation partners, and we're proud to have them. So, wow, this day has been a long time coming. We have a saying at Clippership Wharf: if you want to have a nice day, just schedule an event. Because every time we ever schedule an event, it is a perfect day. So this is fits right in line. And for those of you, and I see a lot of friendly faces here, remember Clippership as a project that just couldn't get done. I mean, this project has lain fallow for 30 years. The first developer who took a run at Clippership Wharf was in 1986. And through various real estate cycles and economic circumstances, the project just never got off the ground. So we're really pleased to be here today. It's great to have a distinguished list of guests here to speak today. We have Joe Boncory, State Senator, Lydia Edwards, City Councilor, Laura Engler from CZM, Adrian Matero, State Rep, of course, Mayor Walsh, Jason Alderman from Lend-Lease, and Kathy Abbott from Boston Harbor Now. And so I will try and get out of the way as quickly as I can, but I do want to give some introductory remarks. And also, you hear construction going on next door. We tried to give them a break, but they've got deadlines, so they're working away. But I'd like to thank our construction team. Greg McGee is here. He and his team have worked tirelessly on this project to deliver what we think is an exceptional result. These industrial, post-industrial waterfronts are an interesting breed. And we threw them a lot of curveballs on the site through the working around the tides, contaminated soils, dilapidated piles, just everything but the kitchen sink. And to come through that and deliver this for the community is it's really a pleasure to preside over, and couldn't be happier. So just a few stats before we get into the good part of the program and hear our speakers. Clippership Wharf is the first project that Lend-Lease has done in the Americas. We are developers all over the world. We're a construction company, have been for 60 years. We develop in Asia, the UK, and Europe. Australia is where we're headquartered, but the Americas is relatively new to us. Even though Lend-Lease has built a lot of the buildings that you'll recognize in downtown Boston, we started our development 5 years ago, almost to the day. And so to deliver this 5 years hence is very special for us and for our business, and we absolutely want to do more in Boston. So the site itself, we inherited about 1,700 linear feet of harbor walk, dilapidated piles, structures crumbling into the ocean. So that's a challenge, and one of the reasons why I think it was so hard for this site to get done. Lend-Lease, has a special relationship to projects like this. We do them all over the world. It wasn't daunting for us, even though there were plenty of challenges with the project. But it was something that felt familiar to us, to our business, all the way up through Sydney. And I think what we've done here pays testament to our commitments to delivering places like this all over the world. And who can blame us? You look at the attributes that this site possesses. My team and I have spent a lot of time out here over the last 5 years, and now it's hard to get people back into the office because everyone wants to be here and hang out and work. Just a couple of stories. I'm not going to lie. This has been it's been hard getting here, and permitting and developing in Boston is difficult, as everybody knows. But we took some lumps in the early permitting process, and there were two moments that really stuck out to me. The first one was when we were at BCDC, and one of the comments was, this site has lain fallow for 30 years. Is this really what we've been waiting for? And it was an interesting comment because I think partly it represented the fact that this was really hard to describe, the aspirations that Lend-Lease had for this site. And I don't know that it really came through in the early renderings and the early descriptions, but the aspirations were true, and I would say unequivocally yes, that this is what we've been waiting for. So that was a moment that has stuck with me through the entire process and been kind of a guide for me to make sure we delivered what people are actually waiting for. The other was a moment at the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association, and it was one of those community meetings that developers know well. We were last on the agenda. It was a long meeting. Everyone was hangry by the end, and things didn't go well for the previous presenters, and so we stepped up and presented our project. We were very proud of the designs and what we'd come up with, and there was general acceptance of the project, which was great. And one woman stood up and said, I really appreciate what you've done, especially with the public realm. It's like you're creating a ribbon park that's going to connect the waterfront. And I was like, I couldn't have said it any better myself. And then she said, I like it so much, you should make the whole site a park. And the whole room erupted, standing ovation, everyone was all excited. But it was a really good moment and a teaching moment because it allowed me to talk to the group about the power of real estate, especially in Boston, especially in this unprecedented boom that we've had, to unlock spaces like this. The real estate 101 is you don't pay for any of this unless the economic circumstances allow it. And housing has been such an important part of this current boom, and housing is what gets to deliver this, not just the market rate housing, but the affordable housing solution next door that we'll talk a little bit about today. So that was a good moment and another kind of rudder for me in this whole process. And it gets me to our first speaker, who really doesn't need an introduction, but he has presided over the most incredible building boom that this city has ever seen. A friend to developers, and a friend to all neighborhoods, really. 10, 15 years ago, there were a lot of neighborhoods that weren't on people's radar screens and weren't really places to live. And so delivering a place like Clippership, which it just blows people's mind when they get here. Most people who live in Boston haven't been to East Boston. I've kind of said that from day one. If we get them here, they want to stay. And it's a real power to what you see behind us. It's a power to the economics of Boston, to transit, to all the things that make this site great. And this particular boom, I don't think we've seen anything like it since the Back Bay was filled in. And obviously a different time, different circumstances, different scale of building, but it really has been an incredible transformation for our city. We have the mayor to thank in large part for that, and I'd like to welcome him up to say a few words.
to thank Nicholas and Jason and everyone at Land Lease for their great work here. This is a beautiful, beautiful place. I want to also just give a shout out to our elected officials, to Senator Boncori, Representative Martiro, Councilor Edwards, for their advocacy. The East Boston community that's here today, thank you East Boston community for being thorough and working with us and as we move forward here. I want to give a shout out to the Boston Planning and Development Agency. I prefer to think about our permitting process not as difficult, but as thorough and transparent. And truly, when Nicholas was talking about the process in Boston and what we've gone through in the last few years, we really have gone through incredible growth, and the elected officials can speak to this. There's a lot of strains on our neighborhoods, and we are going to have a process to make sure that our neighborhoods are heard and that we listen to our communities. And oftentimes, a lot of criticism goes around, but it really is making sure that we connect people to a project here on site. As you walk around here today, you're going to see some amazing connections back to the ocean. If you walk down the street a little bit further down, you're looking at 49, I think, units of affordable housing that have the same exact views as the people in this building here. And it really is important to make sure that we continue to move our process forward. Today we're celebrating 400 beautiful new homes for individuals and families in East Boston. This project brings housing to this community and housing to our city. We inherited a few years ago, well actually we didn't inherit, we was creating a housing shortage. We were seeing people being pushed out of the city. We were seeing people coming in and buying 1 and 2 family homes and pushing families out. And we put a housing goal out there to create 69,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. This helps us towards our housing goal. Clippership also sets among the standards how to create a high quality, sustainable development along our waterfront. And we've a lot of conversation going on about resilient Boston Harbor, and this helps us with resilient Boston Harbor. In addition to housing, this project helped us with our climate resiliency goals. Right now, East Boston is experiencing a lot of growth. We're seeing the revitalization of the waterfront, more seamless access to our parks. We're seeing enhancement of our public spaces. For years, East Boston has been short of open space. Now it has, I would say, probably the best open space in the city of Boston. And many more people are coming to this neighborhood, and the people who live in this neighborhood are actually being reconnected back to the waterfront. We want to make sure in the city, as we work collectively as elected officials, that our growth is smart and responsible. We all know too well that rising sea levels is one of the biggest challenges that we face as a city. As you just look over my shoulder, and you see our waterfront surrounded by houses and buildings and businesses and people. We saw flooding happen at the T stations and on our streets just this past year. East Boston is especially vulnerable here on the waterfront. That's why we made East Boston a focus of our first neighborhood climate ready plan. We completed a deployable seawall on the East Boston Greenway. It can be raised to block the marginal street flood path in case of a storm surge. We're also working with Massport, our elected officials in the East Boston community on phase 2 of Pierce Park to double the amount of green space to 10 acres and elevate its protection. This work is part of our larger vision to protect the entire length of our shoreline in resilient Boston Harbor. It calls for a system of parks, open space, trails, all elevated to block off flooding and unlock opportunity and bring people back to the water, just like this project's doing here. We're developing neighborhood solutions to coastal flooding, and that's exactly what Clippership Wharf does. This project leads the way in resilient design. It has a system of flood barriers to protect low-lying areas in the event of a serious storm. The planning serves as a great model for how developers can build and protect our waterfront. I want to thank Clippership Wharf and Land Lease for your leadership, and to the new residents here, I want to welcome you. Lastly, I just want to let the East Boston community know about the upcoming meeting, and our newest residents, if you're not part of it, we're doing Plan East Boston. It's led by the BPDA. It's a really finite plan to get into what should East Boston look like. Working with Adrian, with Joe, with Lydia, working collectively together to really think about, as development happens, how do we make sure that it protects the community and the people of East Boston actually have say in what's going on. So we're asking you to please come to the next meeting on the 8th. We're asking residents and business owners to tell us what's important to them. around housing and supporting diversity into climate change. We're going to be checking our progress in 1 year, and the next steps, we're going to be talking about what we're going to do next. But I want to thank everyone for being here today. It's funny, I was thinking about when I came to a ribbon cutting in 2014, the main conversation wasn't about resiliency. And it really wasn't about connecting people back to the waterfront. And I want to thank the community here in East Boston, but throughout the entire city of Boston, because when we go to those civic meetings, it is about connecting people back. And I want to thank this company, Land Lease, for really understanding the importance of that and understanding that the community is supportive but wants to make sure we connect people back to the waterfront. So again, to everyone here today, thank you very much. It's a beautiful day in East Boston. It's a beautiful day in the city of Boston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. He touched on a lot of the themes that have governed this project over the past 5 years. And when we started, we had two aims. One was to create a 100-year project, and we didn't know exactly what that meant at the time, but we knew we wanted to push the boundaries on resiliency. And that meant taking great steps to raise up the ground level of apartments and amenity areas and all of that. And it turns out we're probably not too far wrong from the 100 years. The other thing that allowed us to do was make a project that looks and feels different than every other project in Boston. And leading the way on resiliency is one of the reasons, not just raising up the ground plane, but finding gracious, interesting transitions down to the waterfront was what this project was all about. The conception of this was really on the ground. And so very proud of, one, the aspirations, but two, partnering with the city and BPDA to realize this solution at a time when it wasn't really part of the discussion and we were pushing boundaries. So that might be the greatest legacy of this project, is that it changed the discussion and the dialogue around resiliency. We have a number of speakers here today, and really happy to have our elected officials join us for this momentous occasion. First, we're going to have Joe Boncory speak. Joe is a state senator from Winthrop. He gets to represent his neighborhood and the town he grew up in, as well as East Boston. Joe, there are a lot of points of interaction between Joe's interest and Clippership Wharf. He sits on the Senate committees for sustainability and climate change. He has been an affordable housing guy his entire career. Sits on that housing committee, and just a word about affordable housing. The Clippership Wharf has a long affordable housing story. Over 30 years, a lot of things can happen. And we inherited this project from the wind companies and related, and they had solved half the affordable problem by selling off some land at below market rates and fostering development in the neighborhood. The finishing touch on the affordable story was what I call the triple bank shot of this project. We identified an opportunity with the Housing Authority next door to take what was 20 out-of-date apartments and convert them to something that would both contribute to the fabric of East Boston and create a new view corridor back into the city by continuing Harv Street, but also creating 52 units where 20 units had stood. So we're very proud of that solution. It's a combination of 36 affordable units, mixed income units, and some market to help subsidize the development. But it will be a new gateway to the East Boston waterfront and to Clippership Wharf. And if you look down the western part of our site to the Harbor Walk, you'll see a demolished site ready for the erection of those buildings. So important part of not just housing here at Clippership, but affordable housing. So Joe, if you'd like to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. And welcome to Clippership Wharf, everyone. What a wonderful day it is to see this come to fruition, to see the activation of this waterfront. I want to thank Nick. I want to thank everyone from Land Lease who had a hand in this incredible project. I'm proud to join today my colleagues in government, Mayor Marty Walsh, Representative Modero, and City Councilor Lydia Edwards. We're here to celebrate today as this destination cements East Boston as a destination for all who come to Boston. A destination for housing, a place for people to put their roots down, and a destination to visit some of the public art, the art galleries, and other destinations on this site. This project is really an incredible project as it is built towards looking to the future and towards climate resiliency. And I want to thank the mayor and the city council for their advocacy and members of the BPDA who are here today, who have encouraged building along our waterfront, activating our waterfront, but activating it with planning towards the future and ensuring generations that come will be, met full front with an eye towards climate resiliency along our coastal community. This is so important that we keep this in mind. And the Clippership Wharf, if all, should be really a message to all about affordable housing. It is incredible with 400 homes built here, that Land Lease was able to build 52 units of affordable housing. Land Lease has shown their commitment to being part of this community, to ensuring that all who can live in this community, and that their site won't just be a destination in this community, will be woven into the fabric of this community. And they've shown that not just through their affordable housing and ensuring that everyone can live in this neighborhood and an equal neighborhood, as we know, will be a healthy neighborhood. But they've shown that through their commitments to some of our nonprofits in East Boston, like the Salesian Boys and Girls Club, and their monetary commitment to them that will go a long way. And I want to recognize Mike Tryon, the Executive Director of the East Boston Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for all who had a part and a hand in revitalizing this portion of our waterfront. Thank you all for being here today, and best of luck.
So our next speaker is Lisa Berry-Engler. Lisa is subbing for Secretary Theo Herides, who could not make it today. But it's only fitting that Lisa be here because she was here on the ground floor. So Lisa is the director of the Office of Coastal Zone Management. They advise the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs on technical matters, and especially having to do with coastal development. And she's also overseen the review of many municipal harbor plans in East Boston. And Clippership Wharf is one of the few projects that was actually written into the East Boston Municipal Harbor Plan probably 10 or 12 years ago. And it really set out some of the guidelines for development of this project. But Lisa, I remember very early on we had Lisa, we had probably 8 agencies. I'm going to forget some of them, but more departments from the Department of Environmental Protection than I can name, and Coastal Zone Management, and Conservation Commission, and the Army Corps of Engineers, and Division of Marine Fisheries, and we huddled in a conference room next door at the Roseland development in their FPA space. And we kind of talked about what the aspirations for the site were, what the challenges were, how we were going to manage this post-industrial site, what the opportunities were for creating a waterfront that looked and felt different and was really all about public access. And so we then toured the site and saw old rail lines kind of arcing into the ocean where piers once were, and it seemed like a pretty daunting task. But through a collaborative effort with all of the agencies, and not all the agencies speak to each other effectively, so that's one of the big challenges here on the waterfront. But we were able to convene a lot of these groups around a common purpose of delivering this site back to the community, and Lisa really was at the forefront of that. So Lisa, I'd love for you to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. I didn't know how windy it was going to be, and I have paper, so apologies if my notes start to fly away. I'm honored to be here with Mayor Walsh, with our elected officials, with Lend-Lease, with all of you, to be here to celebrate the opening of Clippership Wharf on behalf of Secretary Theoharides. It really has been a long process, as Nick indicated. And I don't know, I might say that maybe it's worth the wait. I mean, right? So, you know, as Nick talked about, there have been a lot of people that have been involved in this project over the years, the state, the city, Lend-Lease, other consultants, and then the local community. And the result is a project which incorporates these shared goals of climate resilience, community development, and then waterfront accessibility. And that's the piece that I really want to highlight today. Like, this is really, Clippership Wharf has many amazing attributes, but the thing that I think that you all should take home today is the way that this project opens up a piece of the Boston Harbor shoreline that was previously inaccessible. I mean, literally it was fenced off, right? Totally inaccessible to anybody. And now not only is it open to the public and the community, but it provides opportunities to interact with the Boston Harbor. It provides opportunities to interact with coastal habitats. There's this wonderful living shoreline element of the project. I welcome you all to walk down and take a look at it. It includes rocky intertidal habitat as well as 2 different types of salt marsh habitats. And these are what we call, this is an example of what my office, Coastal Zone Management Office, calls living shorelines. These living shoreline elements are opportunities for us to use natural resources as a buffer for the impacts related to climate change that we see now and that we're going to see more of in the future. So this is an opportunity for the public and educational opportunity to go in and learn about living shorelines, to learn about coastal habitats, and also an opportunity for other developers to understand that living shorelines work. They work here in Boston. You know, this is the first time we've seen this type of project here in the Boston area. And I really want to make sure that that's highlighted and that you all take a look at it. Walk down there, it's great. It really is. I also want to highlight that the project, as Nick said, offers alternative modes of transportation. So Secretary Theoharides is obviously very focused on dealing with how our state thinks about climate change in the future. We deal with the adaptation side as well as the mitigation side. And by offering opportunities to reduce our carbon footprint through these alternative modes of transportation, right? The train is right here, it can take you right into the city of Boston. That's awesome. There's biking opportunities as well. And then there's also the water taxi, the dock that's right over here. So, you know, there are alternative modes of transportation here that offers opportunities for the residents that live here and then the residents in the neighboring communities to reduce their carbon footprint. And that's really important. Also want to talk about how the project does align very closely with the efforts that the City of Boston has made towards building resiliency in the city. So the Climate Ready Boston initiatives. Our office has been very happy to coordinate with BPDA and the city on these Climate Ready Boston projects. We've provided funding and technical assistance to a number of them. And it shows that Boston's already well on its way towards building resilience within Boston Harbor. And we look forward to continuing to work and implement these projects in the near future. These projects are all about fostering stronger communities, protecting residents against the future impacts of climate change, enhancing natural resources, and then also contributing to the economic growth of the city. Very key goals there, very important. As I've sort of said already, climate change is a priority for the Baker-Polito administration, and it has been really from the beginning. Our goal is to work collaboratively amongst municipalities and private developers as well, to take on this climate challenge by developing practical and cost-effective solutions that really benefit a host of stakeholders. So on behalf of the Secretary and the administration, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I know you were expecting Secretary Theoharides, but it's been a pleasure. And make sure you go check out the Living Shoreline.
Thanks. I'd now like to welcome City Councilor Lydia Edwards up to say a few words. Lydia wasn't here at the beginning of Clippership Wharf, but she is here at the end. She was elected halfway through the process here. And Lydia is a stalwart protector of communities like East Boston and a great representative for what we're trying to do here at Clippership Wharf. So Lydia, if you'd like to come up and say a few words.
Good morning. I wanted to be here to celebrate a lot of things. I do think this is an ideal development when it comes to actually marrying the waterfront with building. And I think it's an ideal, it could be a model, honestly, for the rest of the city, if not the state, to really marry those things, to make sure that we're building resilient buildings. But I'm also here to celebrate because I feel that a ribbon cutting is not just the end, it's actually the beginning. We've done the zoning part, so we finished that. Now we begin the neighborhood part and the building the community part. So I'm excited because, well, welcome to East Boston, Lend-Lease, and welcome all of our future neighbors here to this incredible neighborhood. We talk about the attributes in terms of our coast, in terms of our waterfront, but the best attribute are the people in East Boston. And the best part about that is that we are welcoming and have a tradition of welcoming all newcomers here. So I want to point not only to Mike Trident from the Salesians, but also Justin from East Boston Social Center, Madeline from ZoomX, Rita Lara from Maverick Landing, and also I believe Sandra Nijar from the Soup Kitchen, because they are part of that welcoming team, and they are part of also constantly making sure that we have a neighborhood here. And we look forward to that integration. We look forward to the fact that we have now more affordable units on the waterfront. Again, an ideal understanding of what is equitable. We don't want the waterfront just to be for those who can afford it, but for all, because it's a beautiful public attribute. So kudos to that development and making sure that we have more affordable units on our waterfront. But as I was introduced, I am a stalwart protector of our neighborhoods. And so again, I see this as the beginning of a wonderful conversation and how we're going to grow our neighborhood, grow our relationships, grow the diversity here, and making sure that we all have a home. I also forgot, my good friend Magdalena from the Harbor Keepers, who is one of the grassroots organizers to making sure we have a clean harbor, and a lot of our future generations know to be guardians of that harbor. So again, welcome to East Boston, welcome to a lot of our ambassadors for our community, and I look forward to working with you to making sure we have a neighborhood. I do want to thank the members of the BPDA in many cases for many of the projects that we worked on together, including Plan East Boston. I want to thank the mayor for his leadership, and my colleagues, the East delegation, they call us the Three Amigos, Adrian Monroe, Joe Boncory, who had to leave. It's been great working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. And you really touched on one of the things we take great pride in at Lend-Lease, and that is our partnering with the community. All of the folks you've named have been partners of ours in one way or another over the past few years, and continue to be. Community Day with the Harbor Keepers coming up. Yeah, very exciting. So Jason Alderman is here from Lend-Lease Americas. He's the president of development for Lend-Lease here, and we are very delighted to have our Lend-Lease regional leadership team in the front couple of rows. I won't name them all, but it's awesome to have them here. Before I let Jason up, I just wanted to make sure I did the kind of Oscar award ceremony bit and thank a few people, lest I forget. But so a lot of folks are here, which is great. I really need to thank the people responsible for what you see here. Yes, it's a collaboration between developer and consultants and architects and landscape architects, but it really, when it finally takes shape, and you've gotten through the difficult parts, and you finally get to the easy parts, it is really can be a magical thing. So TAT, the architectural team, in the ground early here, Michael Liu, thank you very much, Andrew Stebbins, Melanie, Steve Regal, great to have you here to celebrate this great day. Hard getting here, but we did it. Halverson Design Partnership, Bob Hewlett, Rob Adams, Shannon Lane, really the drivers behind the site solution that you see here. It was their kind of creativity and interest mixed with our desire to create something new and different and innovate a little bit that really allowed us to unlock this site. Worked with Jamie Fay at Fort Point Associates. I don't know if Jamie's here, but his vision and having had experience on the East Boston waterfront allowed us to see what was possible. And navigating the regulatory environment is always a challenge, and he was really important in that respect. Our legal team, the lawyers who usually don't get much praise, but Matt Kiefer and Adam Hundley, kept us on track through this process. We have a lot of folks responsible for selling and leasing and keeping us on track here. And so the Wind team, we inherited the site from Wind Development, and they've been instrumental in our delivery of the affordable housing next door. We partnered with them to respond to an RFP that unlocked that great development. And so Gilbert Wynn and Chris Fleming and Drew Colbert are here representing Wind, so great to have you. And then their incredible leasing and marketing team who had this place almost 50% leased up by the time the doors open, which is a testament to the traction East Boston is getting, and again, that if you get people here, they want to stay. So that's really wonderful. And the collaborative companies have been working with us to sell condos, both at Slip 65, which we sold miraculously in 2 months, 2 years ago, and now Slip 45, which is on the same trajectory. So Sue Hawks, Kiana, Jill, Jessica, Michael, Rachel, all the folks who've kind of helped us get to the finish line there. And then, when you're going through a permitting process, it doesn't feel like everyone's your partner always, but I think when you come through the other end, it's easy to say that we're thankful for the BPDA and all the folks we interacted with and who helped us get to the finish line. And now that we look at the finished result, we really do feel like partners in getting here. So I wanted to thank Raul DeBurge, who was our project manager for all of this. We have a number of BPDA folks here, David Carlson and Matt Martin and Rich McGinnis, John Dalzell, I'm going to forget a bunch of people, but thank you very much for being our partner here. And then really my team that has toiled in the trenches for the last 5 years to deliver this. Just a quick rattle of a few thank yous. Vita Schlavsky, Eric Tinkhauser, Arish Bakalis, Ashley Rice, Mark Biancucci, Emma Crook, Josh Argas, Warren Loy, Daphne Sasha, and some who were instrumental in the early days who have moved on, Brian Reardon, Joe Vincent, Rob Gardner, all critical to delivering what we see today. And then, when you're an outpost of a global company, we've got about 13,000 employees all over the world. Sometimes you can feel lonely in a small outpost like Boston when we're doing incredible projects all over the world. But the support we've had from the leadership team, from our investment committees, all the way up to our board that sits in Sydney has been incredible. I go everywhere in the world and run across land lease people, and they know about Clippership. They're excited about it, they're interested in it, they want to hear about it, and that's a testament to the culture of our company, but also what the team has really done to create this. So I'm going to invite Jason up for a few words now, having stolen most of his thunder, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Nick. You're right, there are only a few words left, I think. No, but good morning, everyone. It's a delight to be here today. I think people may not be familiar with Lendlease. We're a big global developer, and one of the things I think that we do well is we try to think differently. A lot of companies say that they try to do things differently. We do. I mean, as a developer, what do? We work from the inside out very often. We're trying to maximize revenue, maximize the opportunity, create efficient floor plans, create units that work, add the right amenities to the mix. So that's all important, but the other part, I think, of what we do really well globally, and as evidenced here today, is we really think about the public realm. We care about the communities that we operate in, and I think as you, and I hope you'll join us for the walking tour afterwards, I think that you would all agree we've really done a tremendous job to connect the waterfront back to East Boston. taking, as Nick has said, a long dormant piece of land and reactivating it with the living shoreline, the harbor walk, the amphitheater, the kayak launch, public art program. What we do isn't easy. We've had our challenges here. I echo Mayor Walsh in saying that we believe very firmly that the public-private dialogue that occurs through the permitting process is incredibly important to ensure successful delivery of projects that are not just successful in the short term, but really create enduring legacies for the communities that they operate in. I'd like to thank Mayor Walsh and Governor Baker as well for assembling and supporting such a talented group of counterparts of ours at some of the agencies who are here today. Again, without them, I think we could never have accomplished what we are enjoying here this morning. So I'm going to keep my remarks brief and end with that. I only would add, I think that we are growing our presence here in the United States. We'll be in Chicago next week for the opening, a ribbon cutting of another public park and a quarter-mile reactivation of the Chicago River. We're trying to do things differently. We've been recently awarded a large project to do master planned mixed-use communities with Google on the West Coast, and we're actively hunting for our next deal here in Boston. So thank you all for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Jason. Just a couple more, I promise. Kathy Abbott, what can you say about Kathy? She's a CEO and president of Boston Harbor Now, and I feel like we've been partnering with them from day one. It started very small. We kind of enlisted them, they enlisted us for an initiative around revamping Harbor Walk signage, and we contributed our time and energy to that, and that was very fruitful, and it kind of snowballed into a bunch of other partnerships around funding transportation studies and really getting the word out about resiliency and climate change, and they're safeguarders of the public realm all along the waterfront. They've chronicled all of the facilities of public accommodation along the Harbor Walk, and really are committed to making sure that the spaces we deliver are productive and active and great. So it's been an incredible pleasure to partner with Kathy and her team, and I'll invite her up for a few words.
Thank you, Nick, and it's a real honor to be up here representing so many nonprofits around the harbor, the Friends of the Harbor Walk, the Harbor Keepers, Piers Park Sailing. So congratulations to Lend-Lease and to Clippership for this incredible spot. And the first thing I want to say is thank you, thank you, thank you. I think on behalf of all of us, and picking up on Lydia's comments, that I think Clippership represents, or Lend-Lease has built, they have built a welcome mat instead of a wall. And not only have they built a welcome mat, but they built a resilient welcome mat. And while we are, as everyone has mentioned, Harbor Walk, really concentrated on Harbor Walk, are happy to be celebrating with the city and all these other groups the 35th anniversary of the Harbor Walk this year. This represents the latest link in almost 40 miles of Harbor Walk around Boston Harbor. As a project, it really improves the system, it connects us to our history, and as everybody has said, it connects these two really critical things. Harbor Walk, we've worked on Harbor Walk now for over 30 years, but Harbor Walk isn't enough anymore. Harbor Walk, we've got to raise it up, we've got to build it out, we've got to get creative, and Clippership has really set the bar in terms of what I think we can expect going forward, as I think Lisa indicated. We've also done something else here at Clippership that's really exciting. Lend-Lease has preserved view corridors. You can see from the shipyard all the way to Bunker Hill Monument. You can see over to the Customs House. Those are ways of rooting, I think, this new development in our city in a really exciting way. And it transforms a section of this waterfront, which everybody has talked about, with elevated terrain, innovative design, protection from flooding and extreme weather. It's a new standard. So we focus, a major focus of our advocacy is on climate resilience planning and opportunities we think that creates to build a much more welcoming harbor, interestingly enough, a much more fun harbor, a harbor that we really hope to put on the map and make a centerpiece of our city. Lend-Lease has shown its broader commitment in countless ways. Nick mentioned the water transportation support that Lend-Lease has given, the work that Boston Harbor Now has been doing, working to expand the use of ferries in Boston Harbor, private developers are critical to the success of this effort, and we think is really going to enhance all of the developments that are occurring around the harbor and the neighborhoods that they are part of. There's also some really exciting new interpretive signage here, thanks to the Friends of the Boston Harbor Walk, that we are very pleased and proud and hope will create again a new standard for signage on our harbor walk. For all of these reasons, we were very excited to honor Lend-Lease and in particular Nick at our onboard awards in 2017 that really represent this new standard of sustainable development that really highlights access and resiliency as one product. So I'm really excited to be up here, as I say, to represent my fellow nonprofits with all of the officials who are up here to congratulate Lend-Lease and thank Clippership. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Kathy. So last but not least, State Rep Adrian Modero, he's batting cleanup for a reason, and that's because he's just an incredible booster for this community, for our project. You know, every event we go to, every nonprofit we support, you know, he's always there. He's always happy. He's always convening people. It's always a pleasure to have him around, and his big boisterous voice you can hear at every event here. So we talked a lot about community today, and you know, Adrian was instrumental in you know, having us understand what makes East Boston tick. And one of the things that is near and dear to him and has become near and dear to us, and Michael Tryon is here from the Salesian Boys and Girls Clubs, is just that. I mean, he and former Councilor Sal Matina introduced us to them, and we partnered with them on a community day where we, you know, spruced up their grounds and painted and cleaned and you know, spent a great day getting to know about their mission. And that blossomed into a much broader relationship that I think Adrian's going to talk about. But Adrian, it's great to have you here. Finally realized this. Adrian acts as a convener and a mediator, you know, and a friend, and you know, can draw hard lines when he needs to, and we appreciate all of that about him. So thank you very much, Adrian, and come on up.
Good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to be with you all today. Nick, Jason, and the entire Lend-Lease team, congratulations. Beautiful weather, a little chilly. You could have done something about that, Nick, but that's okay. And a spectacularly stunning view. I'm all so glad that you could be here today with us, celebrating this exciting occasion. We have come a long way. I remember when we were first talking about this project, and I want to actually bring us back even further to when I was growing up in East Boston. Some speakers have touched on this, but I lived this, and I remember vividly when we were growing up as kids, we didn't have a harbor walk here, we didn't have open space here. Much of our harbor walk was blocked off to us with cyclone fencing, including this parcel of land. Many youth in the neighborhood used to climb that fence and go for a swim in the Boston Harbor. I would have never committed such a heinous act, but that's how we accessed our waterfront. You fast forward to 2019, and here we are breaking ground at an incredible development that is providing access to residents of East Boston to a harbor walk. But beyond that, the Lend-Lease team has done this in such a thoughtful way that has taken into account issues of climate change and sea level rise and how we connect this development with the broader community. And for your investment into East Boston, I am very, very grateful. So thank you for that. I also want to speak to Nick's point about Lend-Lease's commitment to the community, because, you know, we ask a lot of many developers, and oftentimes things happen behind the scenes and go unnoticed, but it's important that we do recognize the good works that people like Lend-Lease do. And when they came to East Boston, they immediately said, how can we be supportive? We want to roll up our sleeves. We want to be involved. Nick touched on he was very humble in saying that the Lend-Lease team did a little community cleanup day and did some painting. The investment that they made at the Boys and Girls Club, which I'm a product of and many of my peers in East Boston are, was actually quite tremendous. The Boys and Girls Club is a very old building in East Boston. It has a ton of windows. It's a former school, and those windows hadn't been touched for a long, long time. And what we were seeing was the bills were skyrocketing in the summer because heat was escaping, in the winter because heat was escaping. In the summer, bills were high because the AC was escaping, and there were leaks, right? And this is one of the largest social services agencies in East Boston, and that is not the conditions that we can provide for kids going to an after-school program. And when we brought this to the attention of the Lend-Lease team, they immediately stepped up to the plate, and they've replaced a significant amount of windows, providing some good support for that institution and for the kids who attend the Boys and Girls Club. So please join me in just thanking them for that investment. But their investment didn't stop with the Boys and Girls Club. Some of my colleagues have recognized a number of our community partners from the nonprofit sector who are here. We also have Alex DeFranzo, the Executive Director of Pierce Park Sailing. And we have these cool buttons that we're wearing. These are courtesy of Matt Pollock from Harbor Arts, another nonprofit in East Boston. So as you can see, whether it's ZooMix, whether it's Maverick Landing, Harbor Keepers, all the other nonprofit players that are here, like the social centers, Lend-Lease has really become an integral part of this community. And for that, I'm very grateful as well. And the last thing I'd like to say is I'd like to welcome all the new residents who are here. We look forward to having you roll up your sleeves and getting involved in the community. And don't forget to register to vote. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Congratulations.
See why he was batting cleanup? So just a few administrative matters before we disband here. First of all, thanks again for coming. I want to thank Inkhouse for putting on this event, and especially Nicole Baxavanis, our internal coordinator for all of this. So I know you're somewhere, Nicole. Thank you for that. So we are going to have a little ribbon cutting ceremony, and Adrian mentioned Harbor Arts, and arts, as you walk around, I hope you get a sense that our commitment to public art and the public realm really shines through. We had 2 competitions for sculptures at Clippership, one of which is on the western side of our site, which was just installed last week. We're almost finished delivering that portion of the Harbor Walk, so please go have a look. And also another work called Pillar here in the plaza, done by a local group called Napa. So after we do the ribbon cutting, Laura is going to serenade us again. We're very thankful for that. But please enjoy food, mill around, tour the property. Wynn will be conducting tours. We have Mark Jacobson from Boston Paddle here. One of the really exciting things we're going to do at Clippership is have a canoe and kayak operation. He's been kind enough to bring his cycle boat here today, so anyone who wants to take a quick tour of Boston Harbor via cycle boat, it'd be 15 or 20 minutes. We can do it for as many people who want to do that. So please go down, see the docks, get used to the activity here on the waterfront, and recreation is going to be a huge part of what we do here at Clippership. So we're excited to kick that off today. So again, thank you, everybody. After our ceremony, stay around as long as you want, and enjoy the rest of the day. Take care.